Hey, welcome to our class of Tuesday Night Beer School with me, Chad, of Chad's Beer Reviews. Special guest, Bret Baker from Urban Artifact Brewing. What's going on, man?
Hey, Chad. It's great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Former Albany brew crafter, just like me. Yep. And
Yep.
back in July, you and I did the Gueuze or 𝗙𝗲𝗄𝗃 style, which is like a blend of Belgian lambics. And tonight we're doing the fruit lambic style, which is basically a gueuze with fruit in it. In fact, if you bring up the specs here, which I will. All right, so overall impression, a complex, refreshing, pleasantly sour Belgian wheat ale, blending a complementary fermented fruit character with a sour, funky gueuze. And you'll see that word a lot in these specs here. So they basically repeat the same thing like 4 paragraphs in a row. So all you really need to know first is style comparison, a gueuze with fruit, not just a sour fruit beer. The wild character must be evident. So our vitals, it's a pretty light beer. 1040, 1060 gravity. I love how the IBU says 0 to 10. I don't think there's any other style in the specs where the IBU is 0.
Yeah, there's definitely nothing else. Not in BJCP, at least.
I'm surprised the beer that we're doing isn't listed as one of the commercial examples. I think this is probably the most famous example is Lindemans Framboise. I mean, they make a whole range of fruit beers. Like you have like peach, currants, strawberry, but I think the Framboise is probably the most popular. So I get the full 750 ml. All right, we are back. We got our Lindemans poured, and we're using pretty much the same glass.
The colors look really different on these two.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the camera and the lighting. We'll come back to appearance in a second. We always start with aroma. So mine smells like jam, like farmer's market raspberry jam.
Yeah, it smells like fresh raspberries.
Yeah.
Super juicy.
I get a little bit of a funk on mine. And I mean that in kind of a good and bad way. Like there's a slight, like there's a sourness there. Like it's probably like a little bit of like acetic acid, like a tiny little vinegary, like you would get like in a Flanders red or something. Are you getting that at all?
No. No, mine's like really cleanly raspberry and maybe just a hint of kind of like that aged hop cheesiness.
Cheesiness.
Yeah, it really doesn't smell a lot like what I would expect from a traditional lambic. I'm not getting a lot of the funk or barnyard characteristics basically at all. It smells strikingly clean for what is a traditional lambic.
I agree. It's like the fruit is just dominating the nose here. It's like 95%, maybe even 99% fruit. But yeah, I mean, it smells really good, especially considering this bottle's old. So
yes,
let's check the specs on that. Aroma. The specified fruit should be dominant aroma, or should be the dominant aroma, blending well with similar aromatics as gueuze. Same descriptors apply with the addition of fermented fruit character. That's all they say? So it's like we basically have to open the gueuze specs and reread those, but we're not going to do that right now. So actually, well, I'll put a link here or there somewhere. Go watch our Tuesday Night Beer School on gueuze from a few months ago. So as far as score for this one, I don't know. I'm thinking it's good. It's not world class, I think, but I'm gonna say 9 out of 12. What do you think?
For me, I'm missing a little bit of that fermented fruit characteristic. It smells a little bit too like fresh and sweet to me, and I'm missing like the sour wild yeast characteristic. So
yeah,
to me, it's I mean, yes, the fruit dominates, but I probably wouldn't go higher than an 8.
Okay, I mean 8's still pretty good though. All right, so appearance. I'm not sure how this looks on camera. It looks black on camera. Actually, if you take your phone, turn the flashlight on, might be able to. Yeah, you can see the kind of magenta. Yeah, it's got a little bit of a haze to it, but otherwise it's pretty clear. And when I was pouring it, like the foam was like purple.
Yeah, the foam was gorgeous. Really,
Yeah.
really wonderfully colored.
I would say, I mean, this kind of looks like a glass of red wine, but well, red wine probably wouldn't have foam like this, but I would say it's actually a pretty good looking beer.
Yeah, yeah, it's gorgeous.
All right, let's check the specs on that.
I mean, the clarity that we do get, especially for a wild ferment that's more than likely not filtered, it's pretty beautiful.
Yeah. Like Gueuze, but modified with the color of the fruit used, fading in intensity with age. Clarity is often good, although some fruit will not drop bright. If highly carbonated and traditional Lindemans will have a thick, rocky, generally long-lasting, mousse-like head, sometimes with a hue reflecting the added fruit. So, I don't know. For me, this is dead on. I see no reason not to give it the full 3.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
You're going 3?
Yep.
Okay. All right, we get to the best part now. We get to taste it. Cheers. I definitely get a few different things there.
Yep.
I would say like right away it was sour, but not like intensely sour. Like sour enough to like whenever you're drinking a sour, I always find like that first sip is probably like the most sour of all the sips you're gonna have.
Yes.
Like on a scale of 1 to 10, I put that sour at about a 5 or a 6. What do you think?
Yeah, that seems about right. The sweetness helps temper that acidity as well. And I get a little bit. I didn't get it on the aroma like you were picking up that vinegar, but I get a little bit of that acetic acid in the flavor that I was not expecting.
Yeah, it's kind of reminded me of a Flanders Red, but not nearly that intense. I would say there's no woody character on here. Do you get like foeder?
No, I'm not picking up any wood. No, I'm actually really pleasantly surprised. The sweetness, I'm not a huge fan of how sweet it is, but you can tell that they did actually ferment some fruit. I'm guessing they probably back sweetened it with unfermented juice, which is where they're getting that, where we're picking that up from. But the fermented fruit character in there is really pleasant.
Yeah. And while we're on that, in case this is a viewer's first time, Bret is one of the head brewers and co-founders of Urban Artifact. You guys do all you do kettle sour fruit beers, right?
Yep.
You don't do Brettanomyces. You just do.
We do for some stuff. We have a barrel aged program that we do some Bret stuff in, and a little bit of spontaneous as well. So we do a little bit of everything in the sour fruit world.
I think I saw one of your beers at Total Wine the other day, and like it was like raspberry, blueberry, cherry, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, what's the difference between the way you would make a raspberry sour and the way that like this one is made?
At least specifically with the fruit, what we do is we add all of our fruit during fermentation and ferment everything to dryness. What they did here, I'm guessing, is that they added raspberries during fermentation, and then they back sweetened it. So after fermentation was done, they added more juice to give it that kind of fresh aroma we're picking up, but also the sweetness to help balance the acidity. And then they're doing barrel aging more than likely. They're also doing all wild ferments, where we usually use lab grown yeast so we can control it better, speed up the process. I mean, this probably took them 2-3 years to make this beer.
Really? Wow. Yeah, I wanted to bring the specs back up again, where it says characteristic ingredients: fruit added to barrels during fermentation and blending. So it's not added. I mean, because they already have the Gueuze or the lambics, and then they throw some in barrels and throw some. Do you think they use like real whole fruit or frozen or just puree?
I would think that they're using the really like high-end fruit lambics are going to be all whole fruit with the seeds and everything, because you can pull out a lot of fun nuances and flavors from the seeds. This, it looks like it's just raspberry juice based off the label on the back there. So probably just juice. Yeah,
I agree. It has a juicy kind of flavor to it. Although it also has like that, like I said, like a jammy kind of flavor. It's a slight tartness on this one. I think the tartness is coming more from like the actual fruit. Well, it wouldn't be citric acid, but just from the fruitiness, probably a little bit from Bret or whatever bacteria is in here.
Yeah, the fruit's definitely going to be driving a lot of that. And it could be citric, could be malic, could be, I don't know, a handful of different ones.
I would say it's funny because like this beer, while it's in my mouth, it's very sweet, but then like it finishes almost like bone dry.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how that acidity just washes off all the sugar. You would expect this to linger like a dessert and be thick, but it's not thick either. The body it's full, but it's not pastry stout.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so for flavor, combines the flavor profile of Gueuze with noticeable flavor contributions from the added fruit. Traditional versions are dry and tart with an added fermented fruit flavor. Modern versions may have a variable sweetness which can offset the acidity. That's what we just said. Fruit flavors also fade with age and lose their vibrancy, so it can be low to high in intensity. Although I would say based on how like juicy and like just like robust my particular bottle is, it doesn't seem that old to me.
Same.
Yeah, it seems relatively fresh by, I mean relatively, like probably within a year, 18 months, something like that. As far as rating on this one, I'm gonna go. I think it's pretty high. They don't say that you can't back sweeten it on here.
Right.
I'm gonna say 17. I don't know. Does that seem high? What do you think?
No, based on the style guidelines, there really isn't anything wrong. Maybe the only thing I ding them for is that note of acetic that I don't normally expect in a fruit lambic. Otherwise, I think that acidity or the sweetness is fine. So
a normie might not be able to even pick that up.
Yeah, and I don't even know how much you ding them for something like that. A couple points.
Yeah,
I'm probably right there with you. 18 probably.
Really? Wow.
It's not my cup of tea like on the regular, but there's nothing really wrong.
Yeah, they're doing it right. All right, so let's talk about mouthfeel. It's not a seltzer. I will say that. This is not LaCroix or bubbly or something like that. It's certainly not a White Claw. It feels like a real beer. I'd probably call it like a medium mouthfeel.
Yeah,
it has like a real smooth, almost creaminess. In fact, I like at a certain point there, it's almost like a slightly like oily to me, which is probably just like fruit juice combination plus the bacteria and all that.
Yeah.
So I'd probably say medium body. It seems a little bit low on the CO2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind more carbonation, especially with the sweetness that this has. Mm-hmm. And it's not my only other big complaint is I want more tannins. And I think that lacking skins and seeds where you'd pull those tannins from, I think it suffers a little bit on the mouth as a result.
Can you explain what a tannin is or tannins are?
Yeah, tannins are a class of polyphenols that provide, that drying sensation you get with some wines, some red wines, that is a little bit of maybe astringent, you could call it. That's what tannins do. They provide body and balance and flavor.
Yeah, it's like this is that 𝗙𝗵𝗂𝗶𝗁, like astringency.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
All right, so let's check the specs on mouthfeel. Light to medium light body, should not be watery. Well, it's not watery. Has a low to high tart puckering quality without being sharply astringent. I agree. Some versions can have a light warming character. Carbonation can vary from sparkling to nearly still. That's something they said light to medium light. And that, to me, this seems a little bit more than medium light.
Yeah, this is definitely medium to medium heavy.
Yeah. And like I said, it can be, the carbonation can range from anywhere. I will say it does have like a tart puckering quality. It is. I would not call it astringent.
No,
the finish is pretty clean. So it's more there than not, but I'm gonna have to go 3 on that. I think it has like, plus like I said, like that kind of oily thing is probably the acetic acid or vinegar kind of character. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think the mouth feels a little heavy, and given the sweetness, it needs more carbonation, and I really want more tannins. So to me, a 3, I wouldn't go higher than a 3 either.
Okay. overall, I mean, it's on point for everything so far. I don't think it's. I have had cantillon, and it's quite different. This does drink. I hate to say it, but this does drink like kind of like a basic bitch kind of girly drink, you know.
It's sweet and fruity and pretty clean. So
it's there for the style. I'll go, I think 7. What do you think?
I think overall, if I'm buying this expecting as a beer nerd or craft beer enthusiast or whatever you want to call yourself, if I go in expecting a lambic and I'm not getting the funk and character of a wild yeast, I would be a little disappointed. So while it's technically really good, overall, I'd probably give it a 5.
Really? Yeah, I could see that. In fact, I could probably even come down on the score. You know, maybe I went a little too high. I think this is probably as low as like a 32, maybe. You know, I think it is missing that kind of the Gueuze base.
Yeah.
So maybe 39, 37 is a little high, but I think it's like, it's certainly over 30-point beer.
It's technically well made. It's just, it kind of misses the lambic part of the lambic.
If we did a side by side with cantillon, I think it'd be like a world of difference. You know?
Yes, for sure. It absolutely would.
Or even 𝗏𝓏𝓏, you know. But those are like impossible to get. I mean, this is literally all we can get in Florida. So once you make your own, which that would take forever. So I guess that about wraps it up for this episode. Thanks to Bret for joining me. Sorry, he's over there. And love to have you back. You know, we've been doing like every 3 months or so. So maybe after Christmas or whatever.
Yeah, that sounds great. January is always a slow time in the brewery. So hit me up.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Yeah,
Cheers.
Thanks for having me. Cheers. Great to see you.
Somebody brewed it. Chad just reviewed it. Thanks for watching Chad's Beer Reviews. Trust me, the next episode will be a lot better.